Welcome to QCAD for QML800 Quick Mark Layout. Before we get started, let's talk about some preliminary notes. First of all, you should have QCAD downloaded and installed. Please download the QCAD version from Spectra Position, not the one provided in the QCAD website. The version of QCAD from Spectra Position has been modified to allow creation of control lines, control points, and points files. This version is not an open source. It is only available for those that purchase QML800. If you need additional help with QCAD, there are tutorials available on the QCAD website. If you don't have CAD drawings, please request them from the architect. You can either request a DWG file or a DXF file to open in QCAD. For additional help, please reference the Quick Mark Layout Manual PDF found inside the tablet provided with your kit. Now let's get started with QCAD. All right, so now let's start talking about QCAD. And I'm going to go over some general little functions here just to get started. But if you are looking for a full hands-on knowledge of the program, please reference the QCAD website like I mentioned earlier for additional tutorials. So just to get started on here, and we're using a mouse to maneuver around the space. You will see me, I'm going to zoom in and out a lot, so and move the drawing around. So if you wanted to move the drawing around, you hold the wheel down on the mouse. You notice that the cursor turns into a hand, and as I move my mouse, it moves the actual drawing around. If I use the wheel to scroll up, you will see that it zooms to the area where my cursor is. So depending on where the cursor is, that's where it's going to zoom to. And if I move the wheel back, right, towards you, then it zooms out. So you go zoom in or you zoom out. And of course, you hold it down, that wheel, you move around a little bit. So you see a couple of little commands in here. If you are zoomed in and you want to come right back out to overall drawing, you want to use this icon right here, which is actually auto zoom, and it'll do a zoom all to everything that you have in the space. There's a zoom in or zoom out if you want to use these. These are just kind of stepwise instead of the actual wheel. All right, and you do have a zoom window as well and a zoom previous. So if you say zoom window, you can actually pick 2 points and zoom into that space if you want to get closer in there. Okay, so you want to go ahead and use that tool, and then maybe you want to go ahead and go zoom all on here. If you want to go ahead and exit a command, you can go ahead and click on escape on your keyboard, or you can go ahead over here and click on this icon right here which says reset. All right, so you have those 2 options available to do that. So let's talk about QCAD and what we're looking at. So I have opened a sample drawing, and if you don't have a sample drawing, make sure that you obtain one from the architect. Can either be a DWG or a DXF extension, and like I mentioned earlier. So the first thing that you want to look at is, take a look at your drawing and kind of get familiar as to what you are going to be laying out. So in what I did here is I noticed that I have some yellow walls, and these are the walls that I want to lay out. The red lines represent the structural grid, and we have some columns in here as well, but you also have some walls, some exterior walls, and these are actually foundation walls. So we have some exterior walls of the building. Now, this is a very large project. I went ahead and condensed it a little bit. I sectioned it off to an area that we want to work in. So the area or the area or ideal area to work in with the QML is a good 100 feet by 100 feet area. 70 by 70 to 100 feet is, you want to max out. So that's the range that we're going to use our QML. So here, I want to go ahead now and start creating the information that I need for layout. So this particular version of QCAD is the one that you download from Spectra Positions. and they have highlighted the toolbar that we're going to be working with most. So in here you see that we have our control lines. We're going to establish control lines. We're going to go ahead and establish a reference line. And then off of those, we're going to go ahead and establish some control points. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and create our point marks to lay out our walls. And lastly, we're going to go ahead and export those points out into a CSV file so we can go ahead and import it into our controller or our tablet. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll go ahead and explain other features of the program as we move forward. So the first thing that I see when I open the drawing is obviously all my lines are solid. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and change the grid line a little bit different. I want to make it maybe dashed, or so I can go ahead and do that by using my layer control. Here my layer list over here on the right hand side. Here's layer list. And here's the layers that came in with this drawing. Now this is going to be different from the drawing that you have. You have a different drawing. So if I wanted to go ahead and take a look at what we have, obviously I can go ahead and click on a line, nothing there, nothing I can do with it right now. But if you want to take a look at what layer it's on, if you scroll down or if you move down, you can actually see down here the selected entity says that it's on layer S grid. So now I can go ahead and click on the S grid and change the information there if I need to. So how do we edit that information? Well, we want to go ahead and click on the layer, and we can either right click over the layer and select edit layer, or we can go ahead and use one of these buttons here on top of my layer list, and we'll use the little pencil mark here over on the right, say edit layer, and we come to the same dialog box. And in this dialog box, we can go ahead and change the line type. Now this dash dot line type is too small, we can't really see it, or it could be too large. So we can go ahead and change that. We can maybe go to a phantom line type. We'll see how that shows. And that doesn't show as well either. All right. So you can go ahead and pick a particular line type to go with it, or you can leave it the way it is. And we'll go ahead and see here if we can go to a hidden line. Maybe that will show a little better. And maybe not. All right. I just zoom in really, really close. You guys should see these lines as how they display. Okay. So let's see what this one is here. And again, that's an S grid as well. All right. So it looks like there could be two double lines on this line here. All right, so now let's go ahead and establish the control points. So we want to go ahead and use the control points. And when we establish a control point, typically the general contractor is going to tell you off of what column lines he has established control points out in the field. So we're going to go ahead and use column line 12 and the top column line here, which I don't have labeled, which we'll go ahead and we'll call it A. So we do A12 intersection here. We're going to go ahead and use those two column lines to establish control lines. So we're going to go ahead and specify, or actually click on the first command. And then you're going to see this option appear here. Now this can appear right here where you see it on my screen. This is actually command line, or it could appear right behind the control line, or right behind the other toolbar. If you notice that there's some, and I have some responding here, so you notice that there's some control or some grip arrows here. You can go ahead and kind of hold it with your left button here and drag toolbars around. We can go ahead and use those two lines there to drag it wherever we need to. So it could be up here. We can go ahead and drag it down here to the bottom or in between here. So now we can go ahead and establish our control points and create some additional control lines. We want to go ahead and specify a particular distance. So I'm going to go ahead and offset 2 feet off of our line. And when we get close to the line, you'll notice that there's some lines that appear, whether it be on the below the line or above the line, depending on which side of the line you want the line to be created. We want to go ahead and pick a point below the line. So we're going to go ahead and offset the line 2 feet down, pick a point, and the line gets created. And now I'm ready to create my second control line, and I'm going to go ahead and use the other reference column line here, and go ahead and pick it over on the left-hand side. And now I have established my 2 control lines for this job. Now, my control lines also create a control line layer. And if I want to change the color of that layer, just like we did just like we did earlier for the S grade, we try to do that. We can go ahead and do the edit line, and we can go ahead and change the color here, and I'll go ahead and make it magenta. So I have some magenta lines in here. And now the next thing I want to do is I want to establish my reference line. The first two control lines that we create is the point for my first benchmark. So the intersecting point of those two control lines becomes my first control point, benchmark 1. So I want to go ahead and establish my second benchmark, and I'm going to go ahead and use a reference line to do that. And again, it's going to go ahead and create a layer for me called reference line. And I can go ahead and change that right now and make it the same color as my control lines. And I want to specify a particular distance of reference line. So you want to get a good distance between these 2 points so the lasers can actually measure a good point. So I'm going to go ahead and specify 25 feet off of my first line. And again, I'm going to go ahead and put my cursor real close to it. All right. And once I establish that, I'm going to go ahead and click. So you notice that it's there. Now the line type is different, as you see there. I'm going to go ahead and reset the command, and I'm going to change that reference line type. So I'm going to go back over here to make sure reference line is highlighted in the layer list. Select edit, and now I want to go ahead and change the line type, and I'm going to go ahead and change it continuous and hit OK. So now I got my 2 control lines for this project. I got my control line and my reference line. And now I can continue to create additional control lines if I wanted to, or if you know that the general contractor has given you other control lines, you can. All right. Or again, you can establish your own out on the field as well based on column grids so that you know are out there on the field. All right. So now the next thing that I want to do is I want to establish my control points for my job. So I want to go ahead and click on my control points. And the first thing that it does, it says, well, what is the job? And this is a new job. And I can go ahead and specify the color of the job, or for my control points, which is actually red. All right, so all of my job will be the same color. Then I want to specify a prefix to the point, or to the control point in this case, which is CP. And we're going to go ahead and add, it's going to keep on we're going to keep on incrementing numbers as I click on points. So as I move my cursor, you see that I have a big target there. And I want to select the first 2 control line, the intersecting lines, right? So of my 2 control lines. So click on that. And then I'm going to go ahead and specify where my label is going to be placed. So I'll specify a location for my label. And then I'll go ahead and check on my second point. Now, depending on where my second point is, it varies as to the XY direction. All right. So we're going to go ahead and specify my second control point over here by my reference line. Select with the left button. And then the placement of the label. Select again. And I've now established my 2 control points. After it does control points, it's ready to start my point marks. Now you notice my cursor set, there's a label on there, it's a 0.1, so it automatically does, it does take me into the command to establish my first point. So I'm going to go ahead and reset. And I'm going to show you right now under the point mark list that it has established my first 2 control points. So it goes ahead and you can see the actual symbols on there are actually different. And the X, Y, Z coordinates are there as well. And these are all in inch format. So we put in 25 feet. You see the 300 feet option in there. And now I want to go ahead and start establishing my point marks. So I'm going to go ahead and use my point mark tool. And again, it goes through the job itself. The job now is called setup 1. And I can go ahead and change the label. If I don't want to be lowercase, I can go ahead and put uppercase on there, point label P for points. And now you see that my cursor has a label with a P1 with an uppercase P. And I'm going to go ahead and establish the first point. And then once I establish the first point, I'm going to go ahead and pick on where that label is going to go. And I can continue, and I'm going to go ahead and just pick on the 4 corners of my job here. So I have all the four corners available to me. And I'm going to go ahead and reset right now. And you want to go ahead and clean up your drawing as best as possible. And I'm going to go ahead and, since I don't need the grid lines, I'm going to turn those off. So if I don't know the actual layer of that, like I said, you can go ahead and click on it, and you'll see that on the bottom here it says select entities, and it gives you what the layer name is. So for that layer right there, I'm going to go ahead and just click on the little eye icon, and I will go ahead and turn off the actual grid lines. Now the labels are different. So the labels are under sgrid ident in my drawing. So we'll go ahead and click on that too, and that will clean those up as well. So now we got a much more cleaner drawing. And now I can go ahead and specify the information here. Now, just like we have labels for the control line and the reference line, if you scroll down under the point layer, you'll see that there is the axis itself, the label, and the symbol. So if I zoom in real close here, all right, you will see that there's additional information. So if I go ahead and remove the label or turn off the label, you can remove the label, turn off the label, and then just see the points in there. You'll have the axis. The axis is actually turned off. So let me zoom out a little bit here. So if I click on axis here, you notice the XY label that's on the first control point is turned off. So you can actually see where the XY axis is. And then the next thing is the symbol. So if you click on that, the actual symbol themselves of the circle or wherever the point is at, that is turned off. So you have layers that also control what you're actually drawing inside of QCAD. So let's go ahead and pause here. I'm going to go ahead and pause, and you can continue to create point marks across your drawing. And now I'm going to go ahead and in a little while I'm going to come back and we're going to export all the points out to a CSV file. All right, so now that I've given you some time to add some points, I went ahead and did the same. So now we have a couple of points we can go ahead and export out to a CSV file in order for us to bring into our QML controller and do our layout. So we want to go ahead and choose our export tool. The export tool is right here on the actual toolbar that we talked about earlier. We're going to export selected, set up the points. So we're going to go ahead and export what we have. And you notice that it's only in CSV format. There's no other format to choose from. We want to go ahead and specify the name of the file. We want to go ahead and specify where in our directory we want to go ahead and save the file to. And then once you have established that, I went ahead and exported it earlier. I'm going to hit save and overwrite what I did. And then once that has been created, you can go ahead and open that in Excel. So I went ahead and have Excel open already. So I'm going to go ahead and open the file now. And this is what the file looks like when you open it. So the first column is your name, the name of the point. Then you have the X, and it's in inches, decimal inches. And then you have your Y and your Z value. And then the last thing is your description. And that will be the description of the point as well, or any description that you've added on there. So that will go ahead and cover QCAD and the export function. So let's go ahead and take a look at some export notes. So here we have some quick export notes to be aware of. The export, like I mentioned, is saved as a CSV file and could be opened in Excel. But what we want to look at and you want to verify is that the heading is exactly the same as you see here on the screen. You have the name as the first column, you have the X as second, Y, and then Z, and then lastly the description. This will guarantee that it will import correctly into the QML layout tool or the controller. So this will conclude the tutorial on QCAD for QML800 Quick Mark Layout.